For dozens of Starbucks employees voting to decide if they will unionize again is underway. We're going to bring in our attorney. We're bringing in attorney Andrew Lieb. Always a pleasure. 2 days in a row, attorney Lieb. This is so exciting. So let's get right down to business, right? This has been a historic year for labor rights, from Starbucks to now Amazon. Walk us through what set this movement into motion.
Well, it's become more normalized, Tashani. With the advent of social media, we're seeing a collective talking where everyone's hearing, whether it's Bernie Sanders talking about unions or the president himself talking about unions. And then we have what's called the National Labor Relations Board, and they're very supportive of unions as well. As we know, in a work shortage, which everyone's claiming to have, employees get more rights. But if you're going to negotiate one-on-one, if you're a Starbucks barista, how much leverage do you really have? If you bring together and you collectively negotiate, they call that collectively bargaining. As we were just hearing from Janine, we can have better workplace, better training. We could have better seniority systems and safer places to work. So lots of employees want unions. But there are downsides too, because then they have to pay fees for the unions, and they have special rules if they need to bring a discrimination lawsuit or another lawsuit. So there's a give and take on unions right now, Tashani, but it is a force that people are going to because it's a political climate with social media and everyone wants rights.
All right, so now let's shift gears. Let's talk about Amazon. Workers in Alabama are now on their second vote to unionize. There was a lot that happened with this. Talk about what happened that first go round.
So when you're going to try and unionize, there's two different ways you can do it. If your business is involved in local, just within your state, like you said, Alabama, you're stuck with Alabama's laws. But if it's in dealing with intrastate, between different states, commerce, then you go to the National Labor Relations Board. And I need to point that out. So when we're dealing with this, there's different rules on how to start a union in the first place. State have specific rules, but if it's the National Labor Relations Board, you only need 30%, and then they certify a vote that after the 30% do the petition to start the union. We need to understand this procedure, and I think that's a very big issue that we're seeing across the board.
Yeah, there were reports that there was some pushback from Amazon. Can you tell us why, can you tell us why creating a union would be bad for the company?
Well, just like you said, Tashani, with Starbucks, Amazon's the same thing. Most big companies don't want to have to collectively bargain. Why? Because right now, when the big gorilla of the company is negotiating with the measly employee, they can just get rid of them. But when you have all the employees saying, hey, we're going to strike, and they're protected. And they say, hey, we're not going to come to work, and they're protected. And they say, hey, we want better pay. I don't know if you know, I'm sure you do, Tashani, that people get much more health insurance, much better retirement plans, much better pay when they're in unions. So why would a company want to shell out more money? It becomes a big burden for them. So what they try and do, as we heard in the Starbucks situation with Schultz, is say, we're going to try and address your concerns so you don't unionize. They'll pressure. I hope they won't intimidate, because that could become a problem. But then they'll try and address the issue so people don't want to do it and disincentivize unionization.
All right, so Attorney Lieb, it sounds like you're saying to be a part of the union is a good thing. You get better benefits. So if that's the case, why are union rates declining? They've been on the decline for decades now. When we look at the numbers for black workers, they're still more likely than any other race to be unionized. Do we know why that is?
I don't know if you saw the report, Tashani, from the Center for Economic and Policy Research, but they showed black workers particularly get major benefits, 13% to 15% higher for retirement and health if they're in a union. So you pointed that out first. They get much better benefits to be in a union. But fees for a union are 1.5% to 5% of your salary.
Wow.
So when you join a union, you're giving away some of your money. Additionally, it becomes more infrastructure, more things. You got to read this. You get this notice. You have to deal with this. And when you're dealing with an Amazon employee or a Starbucks employee, as we're discussing, maybe they don't want to have that type of commitment into their employment. Generally, what you see someone that's unionizing, it's a career worker. Are these people really careers, or are they at a job?
Good point. All right, Attorney Lieb, always a pleasure. Thanks for stopping by, giving us that legal insight.
You're the best, Tashani.
He always knows how to flatter me.